Speaking section. The speaking section tests your ability to communicate in English in an academic setting. During the test, you will be presented with 4 speaking questions. The questions ask for a response to a single question, a talk, or a lecture. The prompts and questions are presented on time. You may take notes as you listen, but notes are not graded. You may use your notes to answer the questions. Some of the questions ask for a response to a reading passage and a talk or a lecture. The reading passages and the questions are written, but the directions will be spoken. Your speaking will be evaluated on both the fluency of the language and the accuracy of the content. You will have 15 to 20 seconds to prepare and 45 to 60 seconds to respond to each question. Typically, a good response will require all of the response time and the answer will be complete by the end of the response time. You will have about 17 minutes to complete the speaking section. A clock on the screen will show you how much time you have to prepare each of your answers and how much time you have to record each response.
You will now be asked a question about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to plan your response and 45 seconds to speak.
Do you agree or disagree that young people nowadays have limited involvement in major issues that affect society as a whole?
You will now read a short passage and then listen to a conversation on the same topic. You will then be asked a question about the passages. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. You have 45 seconds to read the passage below.
Listen to 2 students discussing this article.
Have you heard about the late night shuttle service? This late night shuttle service sounds awesome.
Really? I'm not so sure. What makes you think it's a positive change?
I won't have to worry about finding a ride home after my late lab sessions anymore. It's a big safety concern walking back to my dorm alone that late.
Yeah, the safety aspect is a huge plus, but I wonder about the frequency of the shuttles. Waiting for a long time at night wouldn't be ideal, especially during the cold winter months.
That's a good point. Hopefully, they'll have a reliable schedule with frequent pickups, especially around peak hours. Remember how John from City College raved about their late night shuttles? They run every 20 minutes and it makes a huge difference for evening activities.
The woman expresses her opinion about the proposal described in the letter. Briefly summarize the proposal. Then state her opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
You will now read a short passage and then listen to a lecture on the same topic. You will then be asked a question about the passage. After you hear the question, you have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. You have 45 seconds to read the passage below. You may begin reading now.
Now listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class. Today we'll discuss choice supportive bias, a fascinating phenomenon in decision-making. Have you ever bought a new gadget and then convinced yourself it was the absolute best choice, even if there were similar options available? That's choice supportive bias in action. Our brains tend to focus on the positive aspects of the chosen option while downplaying the negatives. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine Sarah is deciding between two new laptops, brand A with a sleek design but shorter battery life, and brand B with a bulkier design but longer battery life. If Sarah prioritizes portability, she might choose brand A. Later, when the battery dies on her during a long flight, she might convince herself that the sleek design was worth the trade-off. She might even forget that brand B offered superior battery life, focusing instead on her initial reason for choosing A, its looks.
Explain how the example from the professor's lecture illustrates the concept of choice supportive bias.
You will now listen to part of a lecture. You will then be asked a question about it. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
Listen to part of a lecture in an environmental science class.
Today we'll discuss how roads can have a significant impact on the environment. These impacts can be categorized into two main areas: habitat fragmentation and disruption of natural water flow. Habitat fragmentation occurs when roads cut through natural habitats, dividing them into smaller, isolated patches. This can have a detrimental effect on wildlife populations, as animals may have difficulty finding food, mates, and safe breeding grounds. Imagine a vast forest bisected by a new highway. Animals accustomed to roaming freely through the entire area are now restricted to one side or the other, limiting their access to resources and potentially leading to inbreeding within smaller populations. The second major environmental impact is the disruption of natural water flow. Roads can act as barriers, preventing water from draining naturally across the landscape. This can cause flooding in some areas and reduced water flow in others. Additionally, road construction often involves culverts or drains that channel water runoff directly into streams and rivers. This rapid influx of water can erode stream banks, increase pollution levels, and harm aquatic ecosystems. For instance, a new suburban development might require a network of roads with drainage systems. These systems can funnel rainwater away from its natural path, leading to flash flooding in low-lying areas and decreased water levels in nearby streams, which can negatively impact fish populations and water quality.
Using the examples from the lecture, explain 2 ways that roads can affect the environment.